All right, hey, welcome to another episode of Jet Talks. Again, here live from Supercomputing 2025. I'm joined by my new friend, Mohan. Mohan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Mohan Athreya. I'm the Chief Product Officer of a company called Rafay Systems. Excited to be here at Supercomputing Conference in St. Louis and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Rafay and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so great question. So we help companies, enterprises, or the neoclouds take their AI infrastructure and convert that into an end-user facing self-service public cloud kind of an experience. So that's the experience they're able to deliver using our platform.
So tell us a little bit, like, what is a neocloud? I've heard this term a lot, and to be honest, I don't really know what it is.
Very good question. So I actually think it's a spectrum. Neocloud is just not one category. I think it's a spectrum. On one end, you have what I would call as the wholesalers. They're basically running data centers for users who don't have power, real estate to host the GPUs and all that. And that's one end of the spectrum. I mean, I would call that as somewhat of a commodity neocloud. On the other end, they are really servicing retail users like data scientists who say, hey, I need a GPU to run my experiment. Too hard to buy one.
Right. Yeah.
So I log in, I click a button, get an H100 for 2-3 hours, do my job, and I get paid. I mean, I pay like a few dollars for that, and I'm done. So high frequency transacting, everything is self-service. No support, no waiting, and then similar story for an enterprise where if I'm Coke, if I'm Pepsi, how do I log in, create an account, bring in 10, 20 data scientists, manage quotas?
Sure.
So like how AWS would do it. So an enterprise user and a random retail user.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So one thing that we're always kind of talking about here at JetStore specifically is, the kind of balance between on-prem and cloud, and when you use one, when you use the other. And I feel like this concept of like a neo cloud is almost like muddying that distinction a little bit, to where you can almost be like an on-prem guy, but you're offering your stuff up in like a cloud type consumption model. Am I thinking about it correctly?
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's two trends maybe worth talking about, which I think has resulted in this situation we are in. So setting stuff up, especially with GPUs on premises, most people don't have the power. I mean, go look at an average data center or colo that an enterprise has, they capped out at a certain power, right? And in comes the GPU, and if you look at most of the racks, it's shocking how empty they are, right? It's like two U's or 4 U's are taken, the rest of it all empty because they don't have the power anymore.
Yeah, like the per rack power density is off the charts these days.
Exactly. Or when it comes to things like liquid cooling, it's just not set up. So then they say, what do we do now? I'm not going to wait 2 years. So they'll end up saying, look, maybe I should go to the cloud, the public cloud, but those are hyper expensive, right? They're like 5 times, 10 times the cost of what some of these other guys offer. So these neoclouds were kind of born to address this use case, in my opinion. That's kind of what we see with our customers. They are working with the who's who of the Fortune 500, or the Global 2000, 5000. And everyone's saying, look, I'm not going to build my own data center. I'm just going to rent it from the neocloud, and I get what I need, except I'm not going to pay some crazy premiums for that, right? Something reasonable, close enough to what I could get if I run it myself. So that's one use case. So I think every enterprise is doing AI in some form today, and then this kind of helps them out, and that's given birth to this growth with the neoclouds. So that, I think, is maybe the biggest trend I see. And the second trend, I guess, would be what I'd call as token clouds. They're not exactly giving you GPUs, but they want to give you an open AI API kind of an experience where you have an app, like an agentic app. Its fuel are tokens. So it sends questions, which are converted to tokens, and it gets back a response. Tokens again, input, output tokens. And they want to send a gazillion tokens and get back a gazillion tokens because they are in the process of automating their workflows. And I mean, that's the whole thing about agentic AI. So this is what we see. And of course, we're on very early days with all of this.
That's been my experience here at the show too, especially just talking to customers, is it's so early days that no one has really kind of figured out like what's the path forward.
Correct.
And I think we're all just building the plane as we fly it, right?
Good way to put it. Very good way to put it. There are what I would call as lighthouse customers, pathfinders, early adopters, and as with any market, I think you'll have some that are there, and the rest of them are looking at them saying, if they are successful, we're gonna follow fast.
Yeah.
And then of course there'll be laggards who are gonna wait forever and eventually get there. But it feels like we are in the middle of a massive transformation, just like I think some of us who've been around in the industry for a long time, like how the internet was born. How it went from dial-up to like pervasive connectivity, or the app thing or the social thing.
Right.
And we take that for granted. I think we are 5-6 years from getting to a point where we'll just take this for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting. So tell us a little bit about what Rafay is doing on the Kubernetes side, because I know that's how our conversation started.
Sure, absolutely. So the interesting thing is pretty much everything in AI/ML, most of it these days is standardized on containers. And the best orchestrator for containers happens to be Kubernetes, right? Now, yes, it's Kubernetes, but Kubernetes needs to be like Linux, that it's critical, but it's invisible.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like furniture. I'm sitting on a chair here. I don't know what brand it is, but if it ain't comfortable, I'm going to struggle. Right? So similarly, Kubernetes has to become invisible. Kubernetes, when it was born 7-8 years ago, it's just like Linux, right? Like everyone played with it, everyone became an expert. And these days, no one cares about installing Linux. This is automatic. It's there. It comes up. It works. Rock solid. Similarly, I think what we have done with Kubernetes is make it like that, make it invisible. So the end user, let's say I'm an end user, I'm a data scientist, I want to launch a Jupyter notebook. It might be powered by a container running on a Kubernetes cluster, but as a data scientist, do I care?
You couldn't care less. Yeah.
So in a way, it's like you guys. I mean, storage, for example, for you guys is invisible below, critical.
Yeah.
Without it, it's game over. But you don't see it. Right? You just write files and expect it to be written there quickly. Same thing with Kubernetes.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Our aspiration is make it invisible.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Because, we've heard time and time again that, especially like you alluded to in the early days of Kubernetes, I mean, it was obnoxious to provision a cluster and manage everything and remember all the kubectl commands.
Exactly.
I mean, it
troubleshoot and
you needed full-time employees that were experts in this stuff to manage it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of the background, at least we see with Kubernetes. Of course, we've gotten, we started as a Kubernetes management company. The market has pulled us in various different directions. On one front, we've been pulled into what I think is 20-year-old, very established HPC tech, Slurm. So we support that too. So, and then on the other side, like things that are like maybe 10 years old, like virtual machines, we support that too. So we kind of become an ubiquitous orchestrator of AI infrastructure, right? VMs, Slurm, Kubernetes, applications. That's the background. Yeah.
Is there any particular customer or partner you've talked to at the show that has made you excited for like something new for Rafay in the future?
There's actually one. I'd like to maybe give a shout out to one of our customers who has been involved in. They're actually the reason why we showed up at this event. Garden Health. I'm actually closely involved with them in solving. They're trying to create a standard, which I think will be very interesting. It's called single namespace for storage. Right?
Okay. Tell me more.
and it's kind of in your area. So we've been kind of working on it with them, with a bunch of other storage vendors for about a year, a little over a year now. The problem there is, especially if you're in healthcare, 90% of your data is hot, right? So in comes, let's say, disease detection data, and now how to compare with 15-year-old data to see what it might be, right? So 90% of my data is hot. Now this data is sitting across 10, 20 different systems across God knows how many locations. And I'm a data scientist who has to analyze that. How am I going to prime my system with this data from all over?
I see. So it's kind of disaggregating disjoint storage systems into a single kind of global namespace. Okay.
Correct. Okay. So single namespace is a known thing in storage, but global single namespace, I mean, that's a different deal.
That's tricky,
Yeah. So they've, I think hats off to them for understanding this problem and, more importantly, pulling together a consortium of people it takes a village to solve this problem. And they did an amazing job at that. And there was a press release earlier this month before Supercomputing Conference. So I'm very excited about what that will turn into.
Very cool. Us too, because we, of course, see this in our world as well. JetStore, is a hardware storage platform that's relatively agnostic to the software side.
I think all these vendors will ride on top of you guys.
So we see that there's oftentimes cases where we're coming into a hybrid environment or a multi-vendor environment or a multi-protocol environment where you've got even in our own product lines we've got block storage and file storage and objects, the whole gamut to tape, And so being able to cohesively, have like a bird's eye view to that is challenging at best.
And I think these use cases will stretch the infrastructure even more because if I'm going to run a query, I'm not, the network's got to be fast. I'm shoving terabytes of data over the network, but I'm also reading from storage. So I'm bottlenecked by network and how fast I can read and write. So it's going to stretch the industry like crazy.
It's great. Over my career, all I've been doing is just like chasing bottlenecks left and right.
Exactly.
Well, Mohan, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming by the booth and sharing a little bit. Any kind of parting words or anything you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
I think we're good. This is an amazing conference. I think if folks are interested in the Supercomputing Conference, it's an interesting aggregation of companies. You get to meet hardware companies, software companies. There's also companies selling cooling tubes.
Pipe fitters,
So if you are an engineer and you like to geek out, this is the place to be.
I think this is by far the geekiest conference.
Exactly.
Well, Mohan, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you.